Did you know that the Dollar General has over 19,000 stores across the United States, making it one of the largest discount retailers in the country? It focuses on serving rural and low-income communities where access to bigger box retail stores may be limited. For most people in these areas, it's actually easier to go to a Dollar General than it is to go to a regular grocery store. However, there is no fresh food sold in a Dollar General, and most of the food that is sold there looks like the typical American diet. So for today's video, I wanted to show you that even though it may be a little bit harder, you can save money and eat a vegan, whole food, plant-based diet by choosing foods from the Dollar General. For my family of 8, I bought groceries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It came to $57, making it a little bit more than $2 per person per meal. For breakfast, we're gonna make baked peach oatmeal bars. For the peach baked oatmeal, you'll need the baking powder from the Dollar General, this big thing of peaches, some cinnamon, and then applesauce, because we're gonna use that instead of oil, the oats, some flour, the almond milk, brown sugar, and it's completely optional, but you can also put some butter on top at the end if you want, but you don't have to. First, you're gonna preheat your oven to 375. You'll grab a large bowl and you'll add 2 cups of these 1-minute oats to the bowl. 1, 2. Now to help everything bind together, we will want to add a half a cup of flour. It's going to be mostly oats, but it does bind a lot better if you add some flour to it. So just a half a cup of all-purpose flour. Now this was cinnamon I had at home, so I didn't buy another thing of cinnamon, but you can buy cinnamon at the Dollar General, and you'll add a teaspoon of cinnamon. We'll add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then just a pinch of salt if you have it, about 1/4 of a teaspoon, just to bring out a little bit more flavor. Then we also want to add a couple tablespoons of brown sugar. This is totally optional. If you want to really keep it sugar-free, you actually could, because it's pretty sweet with the peaches and the peach juice. I'm going to add another 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now we mix together the dry ingredients, and then we'll set this aside. Next, we need to chop up all these peaches nice and small. I'll open up my can of peaches, and so you'll just want to chop up your peaches as small as you would like them. The smaller, the more likely my kids will eat them. I want to save the juice, so I'll use a little bit of the juice later. All right, all those are chopped, and now we'll add them to our little mix here. So go ahead and just add them all in. You're also going to grab your little applesauce packets, and we're gonna add an entire applesauce packet. And this just is what's going to sweeten it up, besides that brown sugar. A little bit healthier, we're using this instead of oil or butter. And this is going to be about 1/4 a cup, a tiny little bit more than 1/4 a cup, so like a heaping 1/4 a cup. And then we'll add our milk, 1½ cups of almond milk. And this has some sugar in it too. And that's why you did not need to add a lot of brown sugar. In fact, some of you, if you don't want it super, super sweet, you could easily leave out the brown sugar. I'm making this for my kids, so I want to make sure it's sweet enough for them. And then we'll mix this around. I'm gonna add a little more flour, so it ends up being closer to a cup of flour. It's just a little more liquidy than I'm used to, and that should bind everything a lot better. Okay, so this is where the butter is optional. You can easily just spray your pan, or you can take some butter and just line the pan. So it's kind of thick. It adds a little bit of extra flavor while also keeping everything from sticking. So again, you can easily just spray your pan, but you do want to do something. You can also use parchment paper if you want to go completely oil-free. Okay, so now that the pan is nice and buttered, we're gonna dump in our delicious mix and just flatten it out. And then we'll take a little bit of the juice, just the tiniest bit, and then we'll add in some of the oatmeal and the brown sugar. We're just gonna sprinkle in some brown sugar, probably about 1 tablespoon. I wanna just kind of make like a little crumble topping. Mix that together just enough so that it's kind of more crunchy. I'm actually gonna use my hands since they're already dirty anyway, and then just kind of top it. So you just have this really yummy little brown sugar topping. This is totally optional. Add a little bit of sweetness. Yum. All right, let's put it in the oven. Okay, so now we put it in the oven for about 30 minutes. We'll check on it. Okay, it ended up being 40 minutes. At about 30 minutes, it still needed a little bit more time, but now it looks perfect. So 40 minutes. Yum. You can see that little bit of extra crumble I put on. It just makes the littlest bit of difference. I'm excited to dig in. The big one.
I got the big one of everybody.
What one do you want? You want that one? Yeah. Too hot?
Yummy.
For lunch, we're making spaghetti with a delicious twist. Now I actually chose ziti because I never use ziti and they had it at the Dollar General, and I think it's just super fun to kind of mix it up. You can use any type of spaghetti. If you just want to do classic spaghetti, you can do spaghetti noodles. And then I have just any type of marinara sauce that you enjoy that the Dollar General has. And here's the key ingredient to make this creamy and delicious. I did grab some cashews. I found that Dollar General had some yummy cashews, and then you need garlic and a side of veggies. So your choice of veggies, I just grabbed some broccoli. We'll boil some water with salt just to make it go faster. All right, we'll add the noodles. And then we'll let that cook. While the spaghetti is cooking, let's make the creamy spaghetti sauce. You'll take your spaghetti sauce, add it to a blender. Now, if you don't have a nice high-speed blender, you'll want to actually soak your cashews in hot water. You can even just use the water for the spaghetti before cooking the spaghetti, and then boil the cashews first, then take them out, and then you'll add them to your blender along with the sauce. You want to add 3 to 5 cloves of garlic, depending on how much garlic you like. I'm just gonna take 1 big heaping teaspoon. Again, Dollar General does not have anything fresh, so we're definitely using the jarred refrigerated stuff. And then to make it nice and creamy, we'll add 3/4 a cup of these cashews. If you want it a little less, you could do just a 1/2 cup. Instead, I'm adding just a little bit more than a 1/2 cup with the 3/4. And they are lightly salted, so they won't dilute the flavor. All right, let's mix it up. Okay, the sauce is done. You can just see how creamy that is. It's just a little twist on the typical spaghetti, a lot creamier. And then the noodles are also done. So we're gonna drain it, but we wanna save the liquid because we'll use it for the veggies. So let's open these veggies. It's a lot of broccoli, huh?
Yummy broccoli.
So we put the broccoli right here. We'll put our strainer right on top, and then just pour the hot water right over it. So this is gonna cook our broccoli for us while we put the sauce on the noodles. Okay, I have half the noodles. I'm just gonna add a bunch of the sauce, not quite all of it. Mix it up half at a time, it's just a little easier. All right, let's grab the rest of the noodles.
The rest of the noodles, some fell. Oh no.
Yep, we gotta add some salt and pepper. It's ready to serve, it's so good, but let's get our broccoli ready. Okay, let's drain it out. And then we'll just add some salt and pepper to this, but it's nice and cooked. Super easy. All right, guys, lunch is ready.
Lunch!
Lunch is ready.
Yummy broccoli, yummy. Yeah!
I love this sauce. It's just such a fancier way to eat spaghetti. It's just as simple as spaghetti, but it's more rich, more creamy. It's delicious, super easy. And the best part is you probably already have all these ingredients in your pantry and can make this right now. Hey, real quick, have you signed up for my free 1-week meal guide? It is a delicious meal guide full of whole food, plant-based vegan recipes for a whole week, and I even include the shopping list. If you haven't already snagged it, make sure to click on the link below. It's a seasonal meal guide and I switch it out every season. So grab it while you can. Yay! Just click on the link below. For dinner, we're making a Santa Fe pumpkin chowder with delicious homemade quick bread. We'll first start by making the quick bread, and in 5 minutes, we'll have that ready to go and put in the oven. So you'll first want to preheat the oven to 350. Then we'll add 3 cups of all-purpose flour to our bowl. Now, if it was true whole food plant-based, this would be wheat flour, but that's not an option at the Dollar General. So again, not perfect, but we're doing the best we can. Still vegan. And then since it's a quick bread, we're not using yeast, and instead we're using baking powder. Plus there was no yeast at the Dollar General. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. 1, 2, and 3. Next is 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll use this whole little mini applesauce. It's about a little bit more than 1/4 a cup. We're just gonna use the whole thing. But before I add it in, actually, let's mix up the dry ingredients. All right, and then the applesauce. And then we'll add 4 tablespoons, or about 1/4 a cup of melted, I can't believe it's not butter. So we're gonna melt this up. You could also do olive oil instead. That's definitely an option if you don't wanna buy this butter, the only vegan butter that they had. So I'll just grab that, add it to our bowl, and then we'll melt this. This is where a lot of the yummy flavor comes from. So it's not just a sweet bread, otherwise it'd be a little too sweet. All right, now that that's all melted, we'll add it in. And we'll also add in 1 1/4 cup of almond milk. This is the milk, the only plant-based milk that was available at Dollar General. And it is sweetened. So normally, if you're not using sweetened milk, you may want to add anywhere between a teaspoon to a tablespoon of sugar. So if you're not using applesauce, you would actually double the amount of butter or oil, and then you would add about a tablespoon of sugar instead to make it sweet. But the applesauce is naturally sweet. The almond milk is naturally sweet. We don't need to add any sugar to sweeten it up. We just mix this up. I like to think of quick bread. It's kind of like banana bread. You know, banana bread, except for today, use applesauce, but you add in that fruit and it binds everything together really well. It comes together super fast. It's not as beautiful as regular bread. I will say that. This is not a bread maker bread. We'll just mix it up and then I'll put it in a pan. So you'll need to grab your pan next. I just have my bread loaf pan. And then we'll take the butter. Again, I'm just gonna use my hands and we'll grease the bottom of the pan. If you wanna spray the bottom of the pan, not use butter, that's fine. It's just, this is what I had. I didn't wanna have to buy another thing of spray, but they do have them at the Dollar General, so you can buy like olive oil spray instead and use that. Okay, and then we just literally dump it in. You wanna be careful not to over mix this, but you do wanna make sure there's no flour. You don't want any flour chunks. All right, and then we just kind of flatten it out in the pan so it looks better. And this will cook for about 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, for the Santa Fe pumpkin chowder, it's basically a taco soup, but with pumpkin. It's really yummy. And so you'll need some veggie broth, which is awesome that they carry it at the Dollar General, a can of black beans. You can buy the frozen corn if they have it. My Dollar General was out of frozen corn, so I just have the canned corn. And then to make it creamy, we're using cashews. They did not have coconut milk at the store, but you can also swap it with coconut milk if you have a cashew allergy. And then the secret ingredient is the salsa verde, which makes it so good. And then a can of Rotel, and of course the pumpkin for the pumpkin chowder. Now, this is a seasonal item, so you may not be able to get it all year round, but otherwise, even if you had to leave out the pumpkin, it's still super good. Okay, now for the soup, we'll start with 4 cloves of garlic. We'll just add it right in there. And this is my favorite kind of soup. It is truly dump and go. So we just dump everything in. Now for this recipe, I'm assuming that you already have spices at home. And so you'll start with a teaspoon of cumin, and then you'll do 1/2 of a teaspoon of chili powder. You can leave this out if you don't like things spicy, or even add a little bit less. Now next makes for a very interesting mix of flavor, and it's a 1/2 a teaspoon of curry. All right, so the spices are done, and now let's add in all of the veggies. We'll first start by adding in the Rotel. Next is the can of black beans. It's been rinsed and drained. Then we add the can of corn. So good. And then a cup of this green salsa. So let's just measure that out. And sure enough, it's this whole bottle. Look at that, 1 cup exactly, perfect. Next, we're adding in this whole can of pumpkin. The whole thing, I know, don't be afraid. It's surprisingly what makes this so good. Now we need to make it creamy, and that's where the cashews and veggie broth come into play. So I'll show you how to do that. And as always, if you don't have a high-speed blender, you'll want to boil your cashews before you do this. You can also even just let them sit in the veggie broth before you do anything else. Just put them in the veggie broth in the blender. And then when you make the bread and put everything else together, they could be ready to go. So it's a 1/2 a cup of cashews. And then 2 cups of our veggie broth. All right, then we'll just blend everything together. And it's the perfect cream to add to the sauce. Let's go ahead and add that in. Yum, yum. We'll mix it around, and the pumpkin makes it this beautiful, beautiful kind of orangey, yellowy color with the curry. It's so good. And we'll just let this kind of simmer so that all the flavors can come together, and then it's done. As soon as the bread's done, we're ready to eat. It's so fast, it's so easy, and it's so good. Surprisingly delicious. Now this is a little spicy, so make sure that when you buy the salsa that it does say mild and it's not medium. It's just perfect for our family. Again, I would take out the chili powder if you really don't like spice, but there is gonna be a little bit, just enough. Now this soup is so good, and if you really, really love beans, you can also add a 2nd can of beans if you want it to be a little bit thicker. That's always an option too. All right, it has been 40 minutes, and look at this bread. It looks amazing. It looks so good. This bread is so good. They're eating it. Now it's time for me. It is so good and such an easy dump and go soup. It's so good. And I love that it's a twist on the typical taco soup. It's also really good with chips. My husband grabbed some chips. And it's also really, really good. You can dip chips in it if you don't want to do the bread thing. Either way, it is so yummy.
This better heal me, bro. That's good. But it's really hot, like me. Oh no, it's not spicy, it's just hot. You like just made it.
Even though I'm so full from all this food, I still bought one more thing to make from the Dollar General, and it is black bean brownies. It's so easy, so I want to show you how to put it together. All you need is just a Betty Crocker brownie mix and a can of black beans, and that's it. It's the best recipe to have on hand to keep in your pantry because you won't need any of this. You'll just use water, black beans, and the brownie mix for a delicious dessert. Okay, so you'll take your blender, put your drain and rinse black beans in your blender. Okay, then here's the trick. You wanna fill 1/4 of that can, so just about to there. That's about 1/2 cup of water, and you can always add a little bit more if you need to at the end and blend it up. Then you'll add the mixture to a bowl. It smells like beans, so that's okay. Then you'll take your mixture and you'll dump it out. That easy. And then you just add more water as needed. So mix this up, and if you need a little bit more water, you'll mix it up a little bit more, just add in as needed. Usually it ends up being anywhere between 1/4 to 1/2 of that can of water. There we go. I just needed a little bit more. Perfect, and that's the perfect texture. Another great way to find that out is the amount of oil it asks for, that's the amount of water. So I did 1/2 cup of water, but then this particular recipe also wanted you to add 2 more tablespoons of water. So that's about the little extra that I added just now. So it really goes pretty much according to the directions on the box, and the eggs just kind of take the place of the beans. All right, let's put it in our pan. You can spray your pan if you have spray on hand. If you don't, that's okay. You can just use the butter, grease it up. You just don't want it to stick. That's the only thing, because there is no oil in this mix, it will stick to the pan. So of course you can always use parchment paper. You wanna go completely oil-free. And then you'll follow the directions on your box for how much to preheat your oven for and for how long to cook it. Funny story, I made this recipe for Instagram and it actually went viral, but it went viral because everyone left comments about how these brownies would give people gas and you can like make them for other people. But the thing is, here's the thing. If you eat a lot of beans, you don't get gassy from beans. You just gotta train your gut.
Let's take out the brownies.
Brownies are ready.
Yum! I'm gonna have the first piece.
These are really thin.
Yeah, it's really thin.
Yum. Seriously, you would have no idea that there are beans in these brownies. They taste just as good.
30? Mom,
Did you get 2? You got 2 too. If you like the recipes today, I know you'll absolutely love my other dollar store videos where I show other inexpensive ways to eat more plants. So make sure you check those out as well. You yawned in it. Was I that boring?
tired.
You're crazy. You're so crazy.